So welcome everyone to this live webinar. This is live, and we're going to go over the Discover Healing app today, answer a bunch of questions that you guys had left over from last time we did this, and any other questions that come up here today, we'll work and address those and have fun and learn something together, and we'll get going here. My name is Josh Nelson. I am related to Dr. Brad. I am not his son. I am his first cousin once removed, but I just call him Uncle Brad. That's easier. I've been a long-time practitioner. I've been since he came out with the body code. The very first version was in 2009. I was graduating from college at that same time and trying to decide if med school or something else was the right path for me. And I became a body code practitioner instead. I'm also the director of education, so I help to create all of our education materials, our certification courses, that kind of stuff. So a little bit about me. Yeah, like I said, I'm a practitioner. And I've had a practice for, well, it's about 10 years, over 10 years now. It's 2021, everybody. So time goes by fast. All right, well, let's jump into it. I'll go over some keynote things here, and then we'll switch and we'll open up the app itself, and we'll kind of use that to run the show here today. But some basics here I think that are useful for those who are experienced or for those who are maybe new. But how this kind of works. The basic premise or principle that we use is that the subconscious mind, and that can be defined as your brain, your spirit, your soul, etc., is this supercomputer that has all the answers. It's remembering everything and also categorizing things, recording everything in your day-to-day life. Every face you've ever seen, Dr. Brad will say that. So everything that's going on. So we believe that subconscious mind, that supercomputer, holds the answers to what's ailing us in life. So our vision with the Discover Healing app was to create an elegant solution to decipher problems, issues, symptoms, and concerns. And sometimes the analogy we use is that our body is like a car that has a check engine light. Your check engine light is whatever symptom, problem, issue, concern that manifests. And that's your body's way of telling you that something is up, that it needs maybe some additional help, or it's trying to get your attention to notify you of something. The Discover Healing app, or what we used to call the Body Code app, is the go-between there that we kind of insert in towards those symptoms to decipher them. That's why it's a code, right? The body code or the emotion code. And from the body code and the emotion code, we can kind of say what the body's trying to tell us, interpret that, and then do something about it. So that's the basic premise of how this works. That's it in 60 seconds. Obviously, we could spend more time. If you're more interested in that seminar that we mentioned, the February 26th, would be a good one to attend. So the format of the app, and again, I'll open it here in a second so everyone can see it, but we have categorized problems, what we call imbalances in the body, into 6 categories, and I'll show those in just a moment. And sometimes we get the question of what we mean by when we say imbalance. And imbalance is anything that interferes with normal homeostasis or normal balance in the body. And that imbalance is defined by the subconscious mind. We've had some conversations with people, is it inherently a bad thing? Not necessarily. It's just anything the body's saying, hey, I need some help with this. That's what we would call an imbalance. And the body code of the Discover Healing app gives us kind of a roadmap to go through and identify those pieces, again, kind of decipher things. So that's where we're headed here. Again, I'll show this in just a second, but the new format for the current Discover Healing app, we changed things, and we talked about this last time, is that we didn't want to leave an open question at the bottom. Right? Sometimes in the old versions, you would get somewhere and then you'd have to try to interpret what it meant there, or go back and check something else. And we tried to create it so there was kind of one path the subconscious could take us to. And it has an ending page, and that ending page has some instruction with these 4 basic categories. There's an explanation, there's a decoding process, an association, and intention, basically telling you what to do, kind of the recommendation there. And we'll go over that. Again, I'll jump into that in just a second. So here's some questions that kind of came up here. So the first body code I mentioned a second ago was released in 2009, and we've made updates to that as needed. The problem in the past was that when we updated it, we had to create a whole new one every time, because the structure and way the technology was then is that if you wanted to change something, even typos, really you'd have to go in and restructure the whole thing. It wasn't easy to fix things. So with the first one, 2009, then we made a big addition. We came up with what we call 2.0 in 2013. I think that was in June of 2013. I can see a lot of names here. Some of you were there at Midway, Utah when we did that. And then in between there, we did an adjustment. We made a little 2.1 adjustment, and that allowed us to add some language and change a few things and fix a few things. Those were great. Those were fantastic. The principles that are in those systems and that software versions are the exact same principles. But what we've done with this new one is we've now put it in a dynamic form where we can change anything. I was making changes to it yesterday. I noticed something, a definition, a typo, and we can go in, I make the change, and then, once a month or whatever, we'll send it to the App Store. They have to kind of approve it, and then it gets released to you guys, and it'll just pop up and just change for you updated information. So that's kind of the thing that we're doing. There's been questions about names and subcategories. In this newest version, we spent a lot of time kind of looking at proper names, good definitions, and also placement within the map where things really, really fit. We used to call a certain imbalance a psychic trauma. We now call it an emotional compound, where it's a combination of more than one emotion. And I'll get to those here in a second, but there have been some name changes. Watch for that, especially those who have been longtime users, I'm sure have seen that. And we're like, hey, where's this thing, and why is it called this now, or whatever. Let's go ahead and let's jump in to the app here. There it is. So here's the 6 categories that we talked about of imbalance. We have energy, pathogen, circuit and system or system, misalignment, toxin, and nutrition or lifestyle. And we'll jump into each of these here in a minute, but let me just show you. I'll just click on something here and we'll get to that ending page. So you see the top of my page, this gives us a breadcrumb where we started. So home base, we went to energies, allergy or intolerance, and we're at an idea allergy. So the 4 basic categories here. Explanation is going to give kind of a definition, a general explanation of what this thing is. Decoding is basically the process of figuring out what it is, and the associations is part of that. So the decoding and the association is basically asking why. So if you get to an end page, in this case, an idea allergy, decoding and association is we're asking the subconscious, why is that thing there? What happened, right? And that's part of this. And the instructions are all here. And then we have the intention, where the information is given as to how to make a correction to this, whether that is an energetic correction with using the governing meridian and making a correction there, or if it's a recommendation to do something, whatever the subconscious was trying to tell us. A lot of these pages have charts. You'll see information as part of the decoding process to identify what things are. The charts are in the bottom here. And as a side note, I know that the images, we have a lot of questions about wanting bigger images, and that's coming. We've been working on that last couple months, mostly behind the scenes stuff. Login, smooth functioning of the app, that's all that's been going on. But we'll get some other things out here. I know, let's see here, over in energy body, chakras and meridians. We'll have it so that you can click on these when you're at this page, and we'll be able to make that image bigger. I know that was a request that you guys wanted. Same with the meridians, so that you can kind of see the tracking and the flow of the meridians, be able to blow that up and make it a little bit bigger. So we're going to be constantly making changes to this. So that kind of puts things on you guys too. If you see something that isn't quite what you would want as a end user and a body code practitioner or something, and you see something that we can improve, send that to us. You can just send to support@discoverhealing.com. I think Dirk, you can put that link. He collects those, categorizes them for us. I'll review those, look at things that we can change, and we'll make this the best app that we can, and be awesome for all of us. So there's, again, the 4 basic categories. There were some charts in there. That's kind of where we're going to be going through each of these categories and answering questions that I pulled out from what you guys had said before. So let me take a second here real quick. Let me just jump over to see what you guys are saying right now, and if there's anything that we want to cover before we kind of jump into it. And thank you. There's already lots of questions coming in. Perfect. Let me just see if there's any. Yep. So okay. Yep. So this version works on a Mac. This version right here, the desktop version, is not a download. You actually go to, you can see them up here in my thing, app.discoverhealing.com. And if you're a subscriber or a 7-day trial person, you have access to this. You just log in. So you can get on any computer, anywhere, and it's run off a browser. And we went a lot back and forth with the developers on how the best way to do this, and this was the simplest and most easy way to get access to all of this. And this way we don't have to go through an app store or a Google App Store, whatever, for approval processes. So in the future, this version right here, the desktop version, will be the first to update, because we can update that like this really, really quick, and it shows up. And the other ones have to have an approval process that sometimes takes a couple weeks before they show up on your phone. But yes, this will work on a PC or a Mac. Again, app.discoverhealing.com is where you go there. All right. Yep, so someone's saying the dark blue color behind the charts is very hard to see. Yep, we saw that feedback. And like I said a minute ago, on the actual app on your phone, we've just been playing with, and I have the beta version that you can change to light mode, and that's run through the software of iOS, and then we'll get something in play for Android devices as well. So really good questions here. Okay, let's see. Yes, okay, so a question about language. We are working on languages. We have German almost finalized, and Spanish is this week being kind of finalized. Those will be updated, and then as other demands for languages are there, we'll implement those. You'll be able to in the future change languages up here, wherever it is. There's the emotion code chart. There's going to be some other chart access. You'll see it up here in the top bar though when we get to that point. And let's go to the next thing. Okay, so we're going to jump into the energy section of the imbalances. And this is just my own kind of checklist. These are things that you guys had questions about. So we'll cover some of these. We'll just kind of go through the app, but we'll come back to this and make sure we covered everything that was asked here. Okay, so energy section. Here we go. All right, so let's start here in the top left corner, post-traumatic. Now, as contrast, I can show you, here's an older version. Pull that over and I'll show that actually just a second. The older body code. But so some changes that we made here. We reclassified. We used to have that psychic trauma, which we now call an emotional compound. We've moved that to a different category. And physical trauma is the same, right? So physical trauma is basically a kinetic energy, a car crash, where that energy has gone into the body and has become trapped and is creating injury to the body. That is what physical trauma energy is. And in the old one, we used to have a little caveat, a little note that said, hey, sometimes you can receive news that is so shocking that it feels like you got hit by a car. I mean, it's portrayed in movies, someone hears something and they fall down or whatever. That is this one over here, physical emotional shock. So this is something that was emotional and shocking that the body took on as an impact. It was like it was hitting the body. So we've just created separate nodes for that. Rather than having to read through and say, well, it could be this, or it could be this, it could be this, as you got deeper into it, now we've put it in place that the subconscious can take you right to where you need to go. Okay. So there was a question about recovery interference energy. This used to be titled energy of inflammation. And what we saw, and it's kind of interesting, I know that inflammation is kind of a native buzzword, right? Everyone talks about inflammation is such a bad thing, but inflammation is a good thing, especially in the acute sense, because inflammation is how the body heals. If you think of, let's say the body has 3 steps to healing. Step 1 is inflammation. That's how it goes in. It sends in macrophages to repair and to clean out the site and signal all these things that need to happen. And what we were finding when we saw energy of inflammation showing up, it was like if the body started to heal and it got to step 1 and then got stuck there and never went to step 2 or 3 and finished out the healing. There's multiple reasons why that inflammation could have been there. So it felt more appropriate to kind of change the name and really describe what was going on there, and there was an interference in the recovery process, and that's what this is. So if that's the case for you, have some nagging issue that's never gotten better, whatever, the body can take you here to recovery interference. You can follow through this process to identify what was stopping that healing process, get that removed, and then the body can now move forward with some healing. And it's interesting that in the last probably 5-10 years, a lot of information about inflammation has come out and showing that we really don't want to stop that inflammation process. The whole idea about icing things and stuff, the icing is great for pain or whatever, but you don't want to stop the inflammation process. You want to let that happen. And then on the other hand, we have chronic inflammation. And again, that's a sign here that there's some sort of recovery interference. The body is starting, it's trying, step 1, step 1, step 1, step 1, step 1, it's trying to heal, but something's not letting it move through. So you're stuck in a certain stage of healing there. So that's what this recovery interference is. Here's the information about it, the process of going through and looking at what's causing that. So let me address that right now. One of the questions that came up was, what do we do with this association? So let's say we landed here. I'll just walk everyone through this process. Here's the information. I just explained what recovery interference is. The next thing we would do is ask, is it necessary to identify more about this energy? Okay, so if the body says yes, we're going to maybe look at location, find an age, how long it's been there, and we have some things here. So the age of occurrence, associated life event, knowing when it happened may be useful, location in the body where it's stored. And typically with this specific energy, you're going to know. You're going to have some sort of ache, some sort of pain, discomfort somewhere in the body, and it's probably going to be an indication of where this is happening. Okay, so we'd ask that, is it necessary to identify more about this energy? If yes, we're going to look at some of these things, age of occurrence, the associated life event, location in the body. If no, we can move on, okay? If no, move to association. Now, this is really the important part of doing this work, is this association aspect. And again, this decoding and association is really kind of one step, and it's asking the body why. So is there an associated imbalance that needs to be decoded? So what this question is asking is, what's going on here? Why do we have recovery interference? What's blocking the body from healing? Okay, so when you get to this step, so ask, is there an associated imbalance that needs to be decoded? And you get a yes, that's what we want to look for. We're looking for something that's blocking this. Now, the moment we get that yes, there's something we need to do. What we need to do, it says return to home page, decode and address any associated imbalances. Okay, so what we would do then is we would click on the home page and we start asking the subconscious, hey, why is this recovery interference happening, right? Left side of the chart, right side of the chart, and we would start testing through. And let's say the body took us to, I don't know, venom. Okay, it says, oh, you got bit by a spider 10 years ago and your immune system's never been quite the same. And we would go through the process here, address this. Now, the thing with the body code is there can be a chain of things. Sometimes we call it the domino effect, right? So let's say it started with a spider bite, boom, that was the first domino, and then it started to tip, boom, 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 and things go down the line. And so when you're looking for these associations, you have to take notes. Sometimes it's just one or two things, sometimes you have to remember. So let me pull up here some notes, and I would just show you how I would document this for those who are interested in that. Okay, so let's say we're working with a person, let's say we're working with Fred, and let's just say some discomfort of some kind, okay? That was our focus. That's what he came to us for. And discomfort, fill in the blank, okay, whatever it was. So we found a recovery interference energy, recovery, and when everyone's watching me type, I type really slow. Recovery interference energy, okay? So then we asked the body why that was there, and let's say it took us to spider venom. So I kind of indent, I kind of create an outline format for my notes for myself, right? So this is how we would keep track of this. Now let's say it went deeper than spider venom. Let's say we got to this, we're under this venom. Sources could include, and the body said, hey, it's arachnid, it's spider. And by the way, this is really, really common. Especially if you watch for your animals. I know some questions about animals. Side tangent note here. I had a dog, well, it's been many years now, but got bit by a brown recluse spider, a hobo spider where I live. And she got super sick. I mean, she did be involved with the vet and stuff. I mean, there was a big fleshy wound and stuff. And after the fact, though, helping her to heal, we had to address spider venom. This was before I think the Body Code app had come out, so I wasn't aware of this. And I think we called Dr. Brad on the phone, and he found it and was working on her. But years later, I found some more of it when she was having some neurological issues. So it's important to kind of look for these things, and they're common. But let's say here, so we're working with this person. We found some venom energy. We get to the association that says yes, there's another association. Right? So what this is telling us, if there's an association, it's not the reason why the spider bit us, but maybe why our body wasn't able to process that spider venom or whatever. So if we got yes to the association, we'd go back to the home page, we would test through, and let's say it took us to emotional, it said it was a trapped emotion, just a regular trapped emotion. We would pull up the chart up here, and let's say it was an emotion, let's just pick one here, discouragement as an example. So underneath here, we would say, oh, okay, you had the spider venom. And what made your body not be able to process that spider venom? Well, there was this trapped emotion. I think I said it was discouragement. We're just making this up right now, but to get an idea of how this works. Okay, so we would go through the process here. Let's go back to where we were. We would take care of that emotion that was over here. Okay, so we'd go through, we would find the emotion using the chart. We found it was discouragement. We released that emotion. Okay, once we took care of this, and this one, if it had the association part right, and if it said no, and typically that's the case. Trapped emotions are kind of bottom of the barrel. You don't usually find something that's deeper beyond that. You can be open to anything, but that's kind of the common pattern there. So we found that, then we would go back to this venom, right? And we would want to check on that association again. So let's go back to toxins, biological poison, venom. And if you are taking notes, let's say you're doing this and you forget where the heck you found spider venom, you can search up here, right? We could have just gone in here and said venom, hit venom, there it was, it would show it up, boom, it would have brought us right to this page. So over time, you'll kind of memorize where things are at, but if you don't initially, you can use the search feature that's available on all the versions of the app. And then just kind of watch your breadcrumbs, as they call it up here, to kind of remember where things are at. But we would come back to this and say, is there an associated imbalance that we need to decode? Now, it initially had said yes, and we had this discouragement. Maybe this time it says yes, we would repeat that process and find something more, right? If it said no, then we would move on to this intention. In this case, we would swipe 3 times with the magnet to kind of release this spider venom energy. And at that point, once we took care of the spider venom energy, we would need to go back, according to our notes here. They hate when I do that flick, the recording people, but hopefully it's okay for you guys. Changing back and forth here. But this recovery interference energy, you know what, I should probably make this bigger for everyone, huh? That's probably a little bit better. But we need to go back to that. And again, I know where it's at, but if you didn't know, you can do the search here. So it was under post-traumatic recovery interference. So we had found the association, the reason why we had recovery interference, going back to our notes here, was spider venom and discouragement, right? We would want to repeat that question here again. Is there another associated imbalance that needs to be coded? If no, then we would go ahead and kind of reset the healing response here, that stage 1, that inflammation, the recovery process, get the body starting that over again. So that's kind of how this association works, and it's really helpful to take some notes with you. I mean, you can do it on your computer, it can be handwritten, or maybe you just have a really good sharp memory and you can remember all these things. But typically there's going to be a couple layers down with this stuff. And just be aware of that. So let me just check here real quick. If you have any follow-up questions with that idea of the association and finding things that are connected together, throw that question in there right now, and I'll take a quick look here. Yes, the question is, do you have to swipe all 3 things? Yep, so you identify this one first, and it said, yes, there's something more. So I just kind of put that one on pause, this first one here, the recovery interference energy. I don't swipe anything yet. I go and look for the underlying thing or the associated thing, right, which you've got spider venom. Okay, I get to that one, it says spider venom. I would get to the association question, it says yes. Okay, I would make a note of it, pause, go to the next thing. So you want to start from the bottom up. So you go all the way down, just like you're just tracking information, making notes on things until you get to the bottom of this chain of events, right? In this case, the discouragement really is the first domino to fall. It was kind of the weak spot, okay? So we found the trapped emotion. Once we get to the bottom, it says there's nothing more as far as association. We swipe 3 times for that one. We go back to this one, the spider venom, would check for any associations. Typically, you already got it. If it says there's no more, then we swipe 3 times, and then we come back to the initial one, repeat the question, and then swipe 3 times. So great question there. That was from Debbie. So thanks for that clarification. Let me see if there's any others here. Can this recovery interference also be true for allergies? Yes, we're going to talk about allergies in just a second. Perfect. This is the online version that we're using of the app right here. Yep, perfect. Okay, so I think that, that was one of the questions that I saw as a theme. People were confused about that association process and specifically trying to remember how it works. And really the best way to do it is to make some notes. Now, as a side note here, we envision this app being some amazing things, and hopefully in the future have this where it'll track that information for you so you don't have to take the notes, right? So that's one of the end goals and part of our vision of having this app for you, is having it do a lot of the work for you. But right now that's not quite there, but make some notes so you can keep track and don't get confused where you're at with things. So all right, let's see here real quick. Anything else here? Yes, this version of the app, this online version, works on a PC or Mac. App.discoverhealing.com. If you have a subscription, you just log in. Okay. Yes, so a question about, can anyone use this without some training? Yes. If you understand the basic premise and the principles, you can use the Bodycode app but we do offer certification courses and things to give you more familiar with it. And an interesting pattern is that this thing works really, really good, the Discovery Healing app. But something we've noticed, the more you know, the better you are. And it just makes sense, right? You just understand things better. You know to ask the right questions. You can look at things differently, make sense of things, connect the dots. And so we do provide trainings that will help you, but you can figure it out and just practice and do it. Really, really good question. Let's see here. Okay, emotion about some questions about emotions. We'll jump over there in just a second. Yes, we have German just about done. So for our German speakers, yes. Perfect. Okay, there's some great questions there. Okay, so that was kind of recovery, interference, energy, the post-traumatic category. We talked about that, and then we really kind of dove in and addressed this idea of association and how to kind of make sense of that. Let's go back a step here. Let's go ahead and let's talk about allergies and intolerances. Now, the old version had this too, but we didn't have as good of a clarification on what they meant. And I think we mentioned this last time, but when we were having the conversations and trying to digest all this and make this new app version better, I think it was like a 2-day conversation that Dr. Nelson, myself, and his daughter Natalie had about the differences between an intolerance and an idea allergy. And so I'll just give those to you in a nutshell. An allergy, whether idea or physical, is basically an incorrect association that the subconscious mind has made. So how that would work is, let's say you're walking down the street, something shocking happens, right? You're put off guard, you're like, oh my goodness, in that moment, and let's say at that same moment that this shocking thing happens, there's a cat that's sitting next to you or crossing the street, or it's present, right? So you have the shocking conflict, the thing that happened, and now this cat that is now associated with it, right? Now it could be the idea of cats that reminds your subconscious of that shocking thing, or the actual smell, a cat dander or whatever. So allergies are how the subconscious is connecting things together, right? And it has to be in a hypervigilant state, which is usually something shocking, conflict, some sort of trauma that's happening that puts it in that state, and then it's paying attention to everything that's going on, and that's what an allergy is. And that's basically the idea behind any allergy. The premise behind allergies, whether it's pollen, you can see why pollen and hay fever and all those things are so common, because they're ubiquitous. You have a conflict, well, it's always spring fever or whatever, springtime, that's in the air. So your body's going to associate whatever's in the air with that conflict. You make these associations. That's how this works. That's what an allergy is. An intolerance is the body's inability to process something. And it could be momentarily. It could be like this week, this month, or this year. So another example is, let's say like a food allergy that someone might think they have. Well, if it's an actual allergy, it would mean that the subconscious has associated that food with something from the past, something like some sort of conflict. If it was an intolerance, it was saying it can't process or digest that food properly because of something else going on. Maybe the whole system's just weakened because there's a lot going on in your life right now. You may be a little bit sick, and then you go out to eat and you have something, and it creates an intolerance. It feels like an allergy, but it's the body not being able to process that thing, but it's not associated with a conflict in the past. So that's the difference between an allergy and intolerance, and hopefully that's clear. And of course, we see that you can have a physical intolerance or a physical allergy. That would be like the cat itself in that scenario, or an actual food, or the idea of it. People can have an idea intolerance of like a person. Someone's around you, you have a hard time kind of digesting that person, right? And you can have symptoms associated with it, but it's idea related, and idea allergy against the idea of that thing, the idea of a cat that's kind of lumped together. So hopefully there was a couple questions about this. Let me check here what's coming in. If you need any follow-ups with that. If you have a question follow-up with this intolerance, allergy, go ahead and type that in. I'll watch for it here. Yes, so why is there no chart for idea intolerance? It's a little bit broader is why, but we have it on our to-do list to create something here. So for those who are aware, we did create a chart here. Now the charts are, we're trying to give you something to get you started, but it's not always going to be on these charts, especially these broader things, allergies and stuff. So you have to use some detective skills, always with the body code, listening to your intuition, kind of following through and trying to make sense of things. And here's some things to get you started. But yep, so we have the chart there, and we will create a chart for the intolerances. It's on our to-do list. We just need to kind of collect a lot of information from different practitioners and kind of get some bases covered and see what's common there. Let's see here. Next question. Okay, so a question, this one about that association. So a long chain of associations, say you have a certain time window of a session, you spend so many minutes with this person, 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever. What do you do if you get left in between? Typically what I have found, if from the beginning of the session you set kind of that parameter, those boundaries of, hey, we're going to spend 20, 30, 40, whatever the minutes is, don't leave it open-ended, leave it kind of close so the subconscious knows it'll fit things in that fits within that time frame. That's been my experience. I do 20-minute sessions, and I really haven't seen that often where it's like, the time is up and like we're left hanging there. That would be awkward and weird. I would try to finish it up if I had the time. That would be my goal. But if you set those clear expectations of what the time is, the subconscious will understand those limitations and fit everything in and then come back to it. But if you do get left where you have time, you have to cut off whatever, just schedule and you'll know right where to come back. Just take notes of things and come back and finish up where you left off. And that would be okay. Let's see here. The chart of allergies, where do you find that? So if we go to the home page, we're going to go to energies, allergy or intolerance, top right corner here. And then we have the chart is under idea allergy right now. Just yesterday, I linked it in. It wasn't showing up right down here under physical, but I linked it in. So the next update, it'll push it in. It'll be right there. And then, like I said, we'll create a chart intolerance. And again, you can search things. Type in chart here. It'll give you lots of different charts and the word chart showing up. So you have to kind of scroll through these. But if you knew, let's see if we typed in allergy, allergy chart. Let's just see what that does. Idea allergy chart, boom, it brings it right up so you could find it by searching. There it is. Okay, good question. All right, let's see here. Make sure. Yes, so the phone app, you should get a notification because on your phones, they'll go through the app store, whatever your phone is, the updates. So you'll, just like any other app that you have on your phone, it'll say, hey, there's an update available. So you will get notifications there. This version, the desktop version, won't have any notifications. It'll just change over. And if it's something massive, we'll let you know. But if it's just small little things, it'll just be kind of behind the scenes stuff. Good questions there. Okay, so let's see here. So we're in energies here. We covered post-traumatic, allergy, intolerance. Emotional, this is really the same. Heart-wide emotions. Again, here I mentioned psychic trauma is what we used to call them. We call them an emotional compound now. Now, all the emotions, we have these 6 types. We have common, which is just your regular, basic, whatever that thing is. Shared, we'll talk about here in just a second. Prenatal emotions, preconception, inherited, and absorbed. Actually, let's just talk about them right now. So common is just the regular, typical thing, whether it's an emotional compound, a trapped emotion, it's yours from your life, okay? A shared emotion, now this one's important. This is probably something we should all be paying attention given the state of the world right now, is a shared emotion is if multiple people are having the same experience. Let's say there's a group of us going that scenario, we're all walking down the street together and something shocking happens together. So it's the same stimulus, boom, something happens, we all go, and we all respond with the same emotion. Let's say we all experience shock. All of us together, boom, shock. Because all the details there are together, and it says what they are. So the people are experiencing the same exact event, kind of the stimulus there. The people respond emotionally in the exact same way. These are the criteria that has to be met to create this shared energy. And the event stimulus is experienced at the exact same moment. So you have timing, the stimulus, and the emotion, all of those together. So we're all walking down the street, this all happens, boom, let's say we all feel shocked together. Now we're all connected by this emotion of shock, and it'll be kind of an environmental shock. We'll kind of feel it around us, and other people will feel it too. So, given the state of events in life right now in the world, try to watch for these shared emotions, because the shared emotion is the only time we're going to talk about group healing is really where you can do a true group healing, where you can affect more than one person all at the same time. There's one other scenario we'll talk about in just a second here. But this is a case where you can help multiple people like that, releasing these emotions. One of the questions that came in about shared emotions was how many times to release it, and we do recommend 10 times. It says 10 right here, because it is a strong energy, and because it's kind of branching out to multiple people. And this could be just 2 people going down the street having that experience. It could be people all over the world witnessing something. think of like the JFK assassination type thing, right? Boom, everyone feels the same thing. They're connected by these emotions. That is a shared emotion. These are really, really, really powerful. Let me go back here. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I'm talking about the shared. I'll define this emotional compound here again just a second, just in case that's not cleared. Now, an absorbed emotion is an emotion that just didn't originate from you. It wasn't my internal response to something, right? It was maybe my wife's, right? She felt shocking about something. I didn't feel shocking about it, but because we're together and we're in the same area, maybe I can kind of feel or pick up on some of her emotion of shock. Okay, that's what an absorbed emotion is. Inherited is something that is passed on at the moment of conception. A lot of our emotional baggage is not just our own that we created, and unfortunately it's from our ancestors and those who went before us, and that can get passed on at the moment of conception. This is the other case where multiple people might benefit from the release at the same time, kind of a group healing. So let's say you have a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa that experienced the emotion of depression, right? Well, as that emotion got branched down the line of genealogies here, spreads out to all these cousins. It could be thousands of people that have that energy. And as you release it from yourself or from a client or whoever you're working with, it dissipates and clears that from everyone. So that can be a really, really powerful one too. Preconception is anything prior to conception. In the new certification course that we released last week, we talk about this, and really what we did is we created an infographic of a timeline, right? You have, let's say, birth, right? Before that you have conception. So preconception is anything prior to conception, and that depends on your belief system, what that may look like. Some people that's a past life, sometimes it's a prior life in some other world or existence as a spirit, as an energy, whatever. But we do see that there are some things that come up, some sort of baggage or imbalances with us that show up that are prior to the moment of conception, of that existence for us physically. And then prenatal emotions are emotions that are usually the fetus picks up from the mother during the pregnancy, the 3 trimesters there. So those are the 3 there. Now, again, to go back, I'm jumping around. I'll write questions if you have some in the question section. The emotional compound here, this is where, let me back up. Maybe this will be helpful. So on the chart of emotions, we have emotions, and we're looking for emotions. We're always looking for just one, okay? And each emotion here is its own unique vibration, and it has a lot of information. It's more than just the name of the emotion. It's more than just heartache. When you have an emotion of heartache, it has the information of when it happened, who it is about, what was going on, was I sick at that time? There's just lots and lots of information. So all these emotions are kind of unique. Excuse me. So sometimes what happens is the body will see that these frequencies aren't exactly what you're experiencing. You're kind of in between the frequencies, so it'll take more than one and kind of combine them together. The best analogy that Natalie used to give is with colors. So let's say you weren't quite red, you weren't quite yellow, but if we combine red and yellow together, we get orange, right? And so sometimes the body will take these frequencies, these named emotions, combine them together and say, yeah, it's a little bit of worry and a little bit of lack of control. And it blends it together to create the right emotional response. That is what these emotional compounds are. Okay, so it's a blend of emotions, usually 2, sometimes 3. In rare occasions we've seen more than that, but typically we don't experience more than one emotion. When it gets up to 4 or 5, people try to see. Sometimes I think Dr. Brad said he saw one that was like 7 in someone that was like kind of an autistic personality, and so they were maybe able to experience a little bit more. But it's just a blending of multiple emotions, and this has the steps to identify those. And typically you'll use the chart here and you'll ask the body, is there 1, 2, or 3 emotions in this compound? There is. Okay, can I identify them? Yes or no? What are they? And you go through and you find what they are and you make note of those. So I just said a lot of information there. Let me jump over here and see what we have here. Yes, so when clearing shared emotions, is it cleared from all people that share it? Yes, that's been what we've been finding so far, and we're still tracking all of this information. It's kind of hard. You don't know how far and broad and these things are shared. It's not we can line everyone up and just start testing them and say, did it clear from you? Did it clear from you? But we believe it does. Yep. Yes. So do you have to have specific? Do you need to have permission to clear these shared emotions? No, because it's branched out for everyone. You just have to have that one person who's willing, that comes forward and that energy shows up in, to help benefit everyone else. So again, the shared emotions are a very, very powerful way to make some changes in this world. Let's see here. Yes, so a compound emotion is a mix of any emotions. Good question. Is it a mix of the different types? Typically, no, because it's usually created in the same moment. So it's my emotional response rather than responding with just one emotion. I respond with two or three, and they blend together, right? It's usually don't find that you have a mix of an absorbed emotion, a common emotion, and a inherited emotion. That's usually not the case. But I will say that those have shown up for people and for myself as well. I've seen where there was an inherited emotion and then some other regular emotion that kind of combined together. So the subconscious has all the answers. Trust that process. Again, that was the principle, the premise that we started with, and so we just go with what it says. So if it said, hey, there's an inherited emotion of betrayal from whoever, your great-great-grandpa, and then also you have an emotion of insecurity, somehow those were linked and they combined, it's totally possible. That was a good question. Let's see here. Does inherited affect more than just the direct line, cousins, nieces, nephews? Yeah, we believe we do. When we first started, we thought it was only this direct line up. It was what would release. We didn't think it went down. Then we started tracking and we found that it did. And then we started looking laterally, and it is. And it makes sense because it's all the same energy at that point, right? It's the same frequency. And kind of going back to this idea of group healing, people want to do groups of people and release emotions or find imbalances. And that can work under very, very certain circumstances, like we talked about with shared emotions, maybe inherited emotions, if they all have that same one. Otherwise, they're all so different. Although you may find 100 people that all have an emotion of frustration, the circumstances and really the information behind that frustration is completely unique to them, right? So if the frequencies were all the same, then we could release them as a group. If they're not, it doesn't. You have to go one by one to address them because when we release something, another way to kind of think about this, and maybe this is hopefully you guys are okay with this level of detail. I don't know. Maybe you're new and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this stuff is crazy. But when we're releasing something, we're kind of canceling out, and we have to have the inverse wave or frequency of the thing that we're finding. So you can't have multiple different ones because we have to target each one to kind of cancel out. That's kind of how it works there. So that was a good question here. Let me see where we're at. And discovered an inherited prenatal. So yeah, it's possible. I mean, it was a prenatal emotion that got passed on. So yep, you can have that. Can we have a blend of, let's say, 3? Yeah. So how do you release those? Yeah. So it is one energy at that time. You don't need to release when it's a compound. You don't need to release the first one, the second one, the third one, whatever, how many is there. They've combined into one frequency. So there's one frequency there, and that inverse is going to cancel out that whole thing. So you can get the names of the emotions because that's just helpful. Sometimes when it's blended, these 2 or 3 emotions together, they're unrecognizable. It'll just say you can't identify the names of the emotions, and that's fine. It's saying, hey, there's this compound, this energy. It started as some sort of this and this emotion, but now it's combined. But it's just one. You just do 3 swipes to clear the whole thing. Great question. Let's see here, tree lore. Yeah, we'll adjust that. We'll get to that category here in a second. Okay, good. Looks like yeah. So we'll wait to those sections. So other questions coming up. Okay, good. So let me go back here. Hopefully that was good. So we covered real quick here the idea of an emotional compound, the blending of more than one thing, and then we targeted these 6 different types of kind of emotional energies that we see. Okay, so these 6 types are true. You can find them in the heart wall. You can find them regularly as a trapped emotion. Okay, so we kind of covered that. Reverberations. Let's go over this real quick. There was a lot of questions here. Goodness, guys, I thought we would get through all 6 categories here, and we're going to spend the whole time here. We'll have to. In fact, let's just do that right now. Let me put the hands down. If this is helpful and this is useful and this is something that you want to have more on a regular basis, go ahead and put your hands up. And I'm just, because we're not going to get through everything that I had planned to get through. Okay, yeah, so a lot of interest there. All right, I'll follow up with all of you, and we'll see if we can do this on a regular basis and maybe just take one section at a time since we're not going to get very far here. Okay, so under energies is where we're at. We're still going through. There was some questions here about reverberations. Now, we used to call things a resonance, but when we started looking at the actual definitions, there wasn't really a resonance that we were speaking about. We were speaking about a reverberation. And I know it changed. I'm having a hard time myself. I've been saying resonance, emotional resonance and stuff for 10 years, and now to say reverberation, it's been hard to change it in my language because I had a pattern there. But that's a more accurate definition or description of what these are. Now we have a few things here, okay? So let's start here, top left corner, seeking heart energy. We used to call this addictive heart energy. And basically what this is, in the presence of a heart wall where the heart is blocked off, its ability to experience joy is diminished, right? And so what it will do is it will try really hard to find something that gives it some sort of happiness, some sort of spark, right? And it creates like an addictive pattern. Now that addiction can be to anything. It's not always just to negative things. It can be, Dr. Brad talked about years ago, he found where he had addictive heart energy to, or seeking heart energy to working all the time, right? So it can be anything. Just find something that gives you some sort of satisfaction in the presence of not being fully open and experience full joy. So that is seeking heart energy. And again, we changed the name there because it's seeking to find some sort of joy. And we brought in lots of people, and we're getting lots of feedback trying to find a good name for this, and this is what we ended up with. But it's just a connection to all these kind of things. Now, the seeking heart energy, it's typically, the seeking heart energy is a very broad energy. It's rare that you have to find a seeking heart energy to tobacco, seeking heart energy to drugs, whatever we have listed here, sugar, food, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, pornography, chronic illness, work, exercise, whatever. Those are within the idea of this seeking heart energy. So when you see seeking heart energy, you'll follow through the steps here, the decoding process. You can look for the association. That's going to be important. Why is your heart looking for joy? Why is it not able to experience joy is really what's going on there. You need to dig that out, and that could be whatever it could be. But it's common to have a heart wall, which is emotions around the heart that are blocking it, to have with that. So if you have any questions about the seeking heart energy, throw that in real quick. We'll just see here. The new training that I mentioned, we just released we've updated the level 1 certification, the emotion code certification. If you're already certified, you have access to that content. Just log into Discover Healing, reach out to support if you need help accessing it. So we have other images and stuff still coming. Yep, people were asking there. Okay, let me go back here. Seeking heart energy, that looks like that's good. Okay, so let me do this. Maybe this will be helpful. Okay, so before in the old body code, the 2.0, 2.1, this reverberation category was just one thing. It was just called an emotional resonance. And what we were finding, again, was that when the body would take you there, it could mean multiple different things. Basically, these things. And so our goal with the new app was to not have to have all this information. If you get here, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. We tried to make the subconscious take you right to what you needed to know right away. So one of the things that we saw before with what we used to call emotional resonance or reverberation was organ communication. Sometimes it would say an emotional resonance of frustration, and it's in the liver. And what we were finding was that it was actually trying to tell us that the liver itself was feeling frustrated, right? It was really, really interesting. And so now we have a placeholder for this. So you can have places and times where an organ or a gland or a part of the body is trying to express in a specific frequency how unhappy it is, right? And that's what this is. You can find this reverberation of emotions. So you'd go through the same process here, use the chart of emotions, and you would find what organ or gland it is, or what part of the body, and what is it feeling, what named emotion using the chart here. And you would just go through the process there. That's what this organ communication is. It's trying to tell you that it's unhappy, but it's unhappy because it's feeling whatever. Look at your chart of emotions: blaming, dread, fear, creative insecurity, conflict, depression, frustration, whatever. Okay, so it's trying to tell a certain part of the body is trying to communicate how it's feeling. That's what this is. The other thing that we would find with these reverberations, the old one with the emotional resonance, is sometimes it was a feeling, an emotion, but not an emotion in the sense of like an emotion on the chart, right? You could say, how are you feeling? Instead of responding with I feel depressed, or I feel sad, or whatever, those kind of emotions, you might feel I feel pain, or I feel sick, or I feel nauseous, right? We use those terminology too, and we were finding that in the body where you could have basically kind of an emotion of nausea, pain, sickness, whatever it is. So these ones, that's what this is current symptom, that's what that means. So if you get this, you typically just have a conversation with the person that you're working with. Hey, it's a current symptom. How are you feeling right now? Or what were you working on? What were they already telling you how they were feeling? And you're finding a resonance to that. So you came to someone, they said, I have got discomfort in my knee, pain in my knee, my right knee. You might take you to current symptom. It's saying there is a frequency of pain as a description, as an emotion, as an energy in that area. You need to clear that out, just like it would be emotion. It's another way of, without expanding this chart to include all kinds of other feelings that we have, this is how the body can tell us that under this current symptom. Again, the information's there under those 4 steps. So that's what current symptom is. Let me just see here, make sure we're staying up to date. Yep, Will the body code certification be updated as well? Yep, that's in the works. And then we have other levels of certification that are coming after that. Let's see here. Oh yeah, we'll release. So a question was, how do I know how the most up-to-date version? We'll have basically a log where you can kind of compare and see what's the current version that we have released. Right now, everyone should. If you downloaded it, you can always delete it and download it again if you're worried about it. But most of the changes that we've been making the last couple months are all behind the scenes, just making the experience very, very seamless, because no one wants to log in and not have it work, right? So we've been trying to fix all that. Okay, so the good questions there. The new app, yes, you can go on your computer, app.discoverhealing.com on any browser, any computer, and you can get access to this. Okay, so we talked about seeking heart energy, organ communication, current symptom, emotional reverberation. Okay, this is what we used to call an emotional resonance. This is not a trapped emotion, but it's going to be an emotion from the chart of emotions. Okay, so it's an emotion from this chart, but it's not a trapped emotion. Now the difference being trapped emotion is past tense. Okay, so when we experience an emotion and we're unable to process it, or we don't fully acknowledge it, whatever, the process that creates a trapped emotion is literally we're saving the emotional energy for later. It literally takes it, packages up into a ball. Dr. Nelson's talked about this for years. This sphere shape, the size of your fist, maybe a little bit bigger, and it sticks it in your emotional backpack, which is your body somewhere, right? So it saved it for later. That's the trapped emotion. Emotional resonance, let's go back to it here, or this reverberation, is the emotion prior to becoming that trapped state. So it's kind of broader, experiencing throughout the entire body. And it can be something that's very recent. Okay, it could be like this is happening right now today. Like I know with people EFT and something triggers up and they can go start tapping. If you feel an emotion come up, a lot of times it's a reverberation here. Just jump to the chart, identify what it is, and release it. Or it can be something that's been years that just hasn't saved for later, but still just kind of hanging on. You're feeling it, and it's typically a little lighter than a trapped emotion, so not as severe as a trapped emotion. Trapped emotions are typically more noticeable than an emotional reverberation. But this is, again, the emotion that's just kind of vibrating throughout the entire body, but hasn't been condensed down to a ball. So more of a kind of a current state. If you look at the life cycle of a trapped emotion, how that works and why we trapped emotions, it was just that, we experience something, we don't acknowledge that something's going on, we can't process it, we save it for later, sticks in the backpack, we never get to it. That's a trapped emotion. Emotional reverberation, we experience the emotion, and maybe it's starting to fade away, it's starting to go, but just that last little bit still hanging on. That's what this is. So emotional reverberation. Okay, sickness, memory, and miasm we put in the reverberation category. That was a better fit from where we had them before. Before we just had miasm. Miasm is defined as an inherited, right, sickness energy. And what we were finding is the body in the previous versions was taking us to miasms, but then telling us it wasn't inherited. It was the person's. It was you have like a miasm, but it's from when you're 6, not from your great-great-grandpa. And so that's the difference between these two, a miasm and a sickness memory. Sickness memory is like a miasm. It's this memory of the sickness, but from your lifetime, okay? Not prior, like the miasm would be. So the miasm, you're going to look for an inherited sickness that is a distortion in the energy field. The sickness memory is same exact thing, but you're looking within your lifetime. Again, looking at the timeline prior to conception would be the miasm. Anything from conception to your current life moment now would be the sickness memory. That's the difference between those two. And again, we had to separate those out because we were finding that there was all these little caveats, and when you get to a certain part of the mind maps, things like, well, it could be this, could be this, could be this, and we tried to put that into this new version to make it easier for you to find things and not have to know as much information and experience all these different changes and stuff. Let me see here. Yeah, let's see. Yes, so this is a web browser-based version, the desktop version, so you do need the internet to at least get to this part. Once it's up, it might work, but yeah, typically you need an internet connection to work with this. And we're looking at how we might be able to solve that if you don't have internet, or you get banned or something from somewhere, or some server goes down. We'll look at how we can all maintain having access to this kind of stuff. We're talking about that. Okay, great questions there. All right, let me see here. Oh goodness, time went very, very quick. Let's see here. Let me go back to energies. Let's see if we can just finish out some of these things. So mental, let's just jump there real quick. So we used to have a will to, a no will to live and a will to die energy. We've expanded those. We created some charts. This came from some other people that helped us create these. We need to update these. There were some translation errors in some of these charts. We need to clarify and fix. These are all the same. Programming, the spare anchors image, and then this is where we're going to be adding in the future what we may call the belief code, but basically what was formerly T3, which is looking at belief systems, right? So these despair anchors images are like a singular belief, negative, incorrect conclusion from the subconscious. The belief code stuff, T3 things are looking at how those can connect and be multidimensional and create these belief systems in the subconscious. And we'll have some more training information that will eventually come out for that. Hopefully, I'll be working on that later this year. So let's see, that's mental. Okay, let's see here, offensive section. So all of this has basically stayed the same. The question that came up was, no, it was on entities, I believe. And the question that was there from last time was the 3 different options for dealing with entities. We just had one before, but we've experienced and had a lot of feedback from other people of other ways to deal with entities, and so we've put in here and included 3 options to basically work with entities, and that's the clarification there that the person was asking for. Why is there 3 and why it used to be 1? As we've just learned other ways and had feedback from a lot of different people on how to work with those. Let's see, anything else in the offensive section here? I think everything else has stayed the same. There wasn't any changes, just some clarifications probably in the explanations and stuff. Okay, let me know if you have. Jump over to the questions section, throw in if you have any final questions, and let me see if I can answer those before we get to it here. Yeah, is there a benefit to using the app versus some sort of printout? Yeah, we used to include manuals. The problem is that this new version, because we've made it easier, direct access, there's basically repeats of the same imbalance but down different lines in the app. So this new app has 900 something nodes within it. Doesn't look like it, but there are basically 900 different pages, 900 plus different pages of stuff. So, a printout version wouldn't really work because these right here, as we typed all these out, these were always about a sheet of paper size and length, or a Word document, or a little longer. And there's almost 1,000 of these, and so it'd be a ream of paper to try to print any of this stuff out and have a kind of a hard copy. So we're looking at how we can best do some sort of hard copy, or again, kind of an offline version of something. So let's see here. The new app, someone's asking about the cost. The new app is a subscription model. It's $29 a month. And that includes, that's just kind of ongoing. So you get the updates every month that happen there. Access, and, as we're adding it to different platforms, we have mobile devices, desktops, and as we add more, that's all included. There's not going to be an increase in price to have more access to something. It'll all be the same. Let's see here. So what do you do if T3 pops up and you're working on someone? Oops, let me go back and click on that. Mental, here we go, programming. So if this shows up, it's telling that person has a belief system, which is more than one belief that are layered together. And you can look for T3 practitioners, people who practice this, or maybe someone else that deals with belief systems, or you can try decode it and decipher it yourself. You can do that too. We will have some training and some information more on this upcoming, hopefully throughout this year. We're working on that. But you can, if you're willing to dive in and just start trying to mapping things out. I think Dr. Brad has a short video on T3 on YouTube, like a 7-minute video. Just watch that, and that'll kind of give you the premise, the idea behind how a belief system works. Let's see here. No, we don't have a CD with all this stuff on it, unfortunately. I mean, none of my computers and stuff even have CD drives and stuff. So a question about the premium membership and then the app. Yeah, so we're going to be basically doing away with the premium membership and giving you some other information, hopefully in the next month or so, what's going to happen there. So you don't have to have 2 subscriptions, because no one wants to do that. We understand that. Let's see here. T3 used to stand for three-dimensional therapy. It wasn't T3 the hormone. Yeah, so the 2 subscriptions, people are asking about the premium membership, and now we have the subscription for this. Yeah, we are aware, and we are gonna fix that for you and give you a really good solution there, an elegant solution. Let's see. So belief code stuff. Hopefully, you know, let me do this. Let me jump over. Let's find. Now I was gonna go through circuits and systems. I was gonna go through toxins, pathogens. You know, explain some of these. Some of these I just made little notes on questions that people had. We'll have to save that for another time here. But let's see. What was the question? Oh yeah. So certifications and trainings. So the format that, so you guys are all kind of aware what's happening. We just redid the level 1 emotion code certification. I mentioned that earlier. I'm redoing the body code certification right now because it has to update with all these new changes that we made in the app. We had to do the app first, and now we can do the certification to follow. And then we'll have another level of certification, which will become more of advanced body code stuff, which will probably deal with belief systems, belief code, if we call it that, T3 type stuff. And then beyond that, we have some placeholders for some higher advanced trainings that will really dive into the subconscious and get kind of crazy, some different theories and things, and sometimes with the missing link to really help people. So there's going to be eventually probably 4 levels of kind of certification or material, 4 levels of content that we'll have available for people to go through trainings and learn everything that we understand and know at this time. So that's all in the works. Hopefully we'll have those next 2 levels. So level 2 and level 3, which is body code, maybe this belief code stuff, hopefully out this year, by the end of the year. Let's see here. Yeah, so I don't have a link to the T3 video that Dr. Brad, just type in Dr. Bradley Nelson T3 therapy or something like that, and you'll find it. It's a little cartoon thing. He shows a tree. He navigates and kind of walks you through. All right, let's see here. Yeah, so all these rest of these questions. Okay, so we won't have time to get to all of this today because we're already over time. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. Yeah, so a question about the trainings. Yeah, they are sequential trainings, so they all build upon the next. You know, the level 1 really gives all the foundation, the premises of how this stuff works, and you get a certain idea of concepts, emotional stuff, and then we go from there and from there and there. And it doesn't really work to kind of jump in between. The only one that will be different that won't be kind of sequential is that top level of 4, level 4 certification. There we'll have actually multiple mini courses, but you have to get to that level, then you can kind of pick and choose what mini courses you're interested in. To kind of go through all that. But they are sequential. There's a lot of information that we have to really build some foundations and kind of build upon there. So they need to be done in that order. That was another common question. All right, I'm going to jump back to the app and answer one question here in pathogens. This was a common, we didn't quite get there, but you can probably knock this one off. So the difference between a physical pathogen and an energy of a pathogen, okay? So when you click on these, you'll have all the same list of types of pathogens: mold, virus, prion, biofilm, bacteria, fungus, parasite. That's on the physical side. Energy side, same exact thing, okay? So really what they are is the body will differentiate. So before you'd get to a pathogen, you had to figure out what type of pathogen, what was really going on. It was all these additional questions. Now we've given it so the map can just tell you where to go. So a physical pathogen is basically a current pathogen, almost like a current infection that's going on in the body. And typically, a physical pathogen, it can be treated energetically, but may require the use of some sort of remedy. The body may want some help to help get rid of that thing because it's physically there, it's present. Maybe a blood test or some sort of testing procedure would identify that thing is there. That's what the physical pathogen is. The energy of a pathogen is where your body had a sickness, an infection, whatever. It got rid of it, it's gone, but not 100%, right? You feel fine, you couldn't tell that you were sick or anything anymore, but if we were to measure really, really precisely, we would see that maybe there's a small little bit of this energy, it's just the energy at this point, of this infection that's still there. So these ones, you can have a little bit of the energy. Another way to look at it, think of it as like a memory. It's like a little bit of a memory, that sickness memory we had before. The sickness memory was a collection of the whole symptoms of the sickness, all the symptoms that were going on there. the energy of a pathogen is just the memory part of just that one thing, just the mold, just the virus, just the parasite, just the bacteria, whatever. It's just a little line, a little frequency there. If you find these are really, really common. You have these that can build up over your lifetime, and these clear out really easy. All they require is just basically deleting it. So that's the differences there between physical and energy of a pathogen. This is more the memory of the pathogen. This is the pathogen still there. So that one really quick. Okay, so that way we got energies and pathogens crossed off. Thanks for that question. Okay, so I know there's probably a bunch more questions here. Yeah, prions used to be in toxins. That's right. We used to kind of classify it there. Most of the mainstream, doctors, Western medicine classify a prion under a pathogen category. So we moved it over there, made it a little bit easier. And as far as fitting it as an actual infectious thing, prions are interesting. We can get into that next time if we want to. But a prion is just a protein that shape has been changed, so it's no longer what it was originally created for. You can ingest it as a denatured protein. You ate something that was bad, or something that due to oxidation or something by a protein shape has changed. And if you look from biochemistry, a protein shape determines its function. So if you change the shape, you change its function. And what you find with a prion is a misfolded protein now is doing something it's not supposed to do, and it also has some sort of information will tell other proteins to change too. That's the infectious side of it, whereas it creates this trigger of something that's happening. But yeah, we felt that it fit better in pathogens. So to answer that question. Okay, remember that if you don't have the app and you're interested in it, you can go ahead, discoverhealing.com/app. You can register for a free 7-day trial, or you can go ahead and subscribe to the app if you want to have access to it. It is on a subscription base. You can cancel at any time if you need to and come back to it, but there's a 7-day free trial there. For more information, discoverhealing.com, drbradley.nelson.com, discoverhealing.com/contact. And there's a phone as well. So, okay, I think we got through everything, kind of, right? One more time, if you like this format and you want to do this again, put your hand up. Let me just see. Yeah, so there's some interest there to keep going through this. Okay, the other thing that you can do is if you have questions, we can do another one of these. I just want to say this, that it's crazy times right now. We're talking about those shared emotions and the energy that's going on. I think we can all sense it. Typically, those of us who are drawn to this kind of work are a little bit more sensitive to the energies and things that are happening in the world and the universe right now. We can be a beacon of light. There's a lot of negativity, but I often look watching the news or something and wonder if all these people didn't have that emotional baggage or whatever, what would they be like? What would they act? How would they react? And I think we each have a possibility here, an opportunity to change the world by, as Dr. Nelson used to say, changing one person at a time. And I think that's true. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being interested in this and kind of being called to the work here. I know that we can all relate to that. And hopefully we'll see you guys all in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.